think I figured out why I'm having an intermittent issue with cruise control. This gear, not the big one, the small one is for the speedometer, and there's damage to the rear differential cover where somebody backed into something and the gear had been rubbing up against the cover. So there's a possibility that there's loss of clearance between the gear and where it's reading at the sensor. Not really sure how to fix this. I'm thinking that there might be a tooth broke off of this gear. I'm just going to try and beat the cover back out, and maybe that might fix it. And I'll clean the speedometer sensor at the top here. I'll just take that out, clean it. It should be a magnet, so there might be a lot of metal stuck to it causing an issue with it reading. But I'm thinking that this may fix it though if I clean that up. I'm changing the gear oil now. This one has an LSD in it as well. I think the 3500s came with them standard. There's a couple different models of rear ends that the Dodge trucks came with. One takes less fluid than the other. This one should take 4.5 quarts, 11-inch rear. There's also a 10.5, or maybe it's 11.5 and a 10.5. I'm gonna clean this up real good, beat that dent back out, clean that sensor, and then hopefully it'll work again. It was only an intermittent issue, so sometimes it would come on when I was driving and sometimes it wouldn't. Maybe it'll work itself out like Milton from Office Space. I'm getting ready to put the differential cover back on. I've lightly put silicone all over the differential and the gasket as well as the plate. I don't think you really have to do that, but I just want to be sure so I don't have to go back and redo this. If you don't plan on using silicone, you probably should just replace this seal, because on part of it, it started to have a lot of rust. And the other thing that happened is part of the cover started to rust really bad near the gasket. You can kind of see some pitting. So I think that's going to make it difficult to seal. Even if you have a new seal, it may not seal right. I also went through and beat this back out with a hammer where that was dented in, so I won't have any interference problems with this speed sensor gear here for the speedometer. It's going to help to give you a lot more room to take the spare tire out. I have a Dodge 3500. It's a 2008 model. So this one has an 11.5 rear. The part number is right beside the filler plug. And this one also has the LSD in it. So 02808 13758 AAM. AAM is the brand of the differential. The front differential on this model is also an AAM. That one is a 9.25 front differential. The front differential, the oil capacity is 2.5 quarts. The rear differential online, it says between 3.8 to 4.5 quarts. The oil I picked up was 75 W90. That's according to the specifications. You're supposed to put 75 W90 in the front and rear differential. You don't have to use one that has the limited slip additive in it according to the owner's manual of the vehicle, but I chose to use fully synthetic. It will work with limited slip differentials. The rear on this is limited slip, but the front differential is not limited slip, so it's just the spider gears. Redline was my choice of oil. I've always used Redline for all of my other vehicles. I would either go with this, Royal Purple, or what is used for OEM, which is probably a Mopar brand. So I'll link to the oil that I chose in the description box. This is the Dodge owner's manual for 2008. So front and rear axle fluid for 2500 and 3500 GL5 SAE 75 W90 synthetic or equivalent. No limited slip additive is required. Here's the maintenance schedule for the rear end and front end. Change front end and rear end axle fluid every 15,000 miles. So 15 has it at 30, 45, 60, 75, 90, 105, 120, 135, 150. These work really well as a pump to move the fluid from the bottle to the differential, or really any fluid you're moving. These are only like $8 or so at Walmart, so I'd recommend getting one of those. There's people online that do fluid changes that recommend these extraction pumps that are like over $100. This works really well for the money. There's another kind that has the type that you squeeze the little thing. That one's not near as good as this one. I think the squeeze one is only like $4, but for $8 what I paid for this, you can go through and you could take these ends off, they unscrew, and you can go back and clean it. So you can reuse this. I've used this many times so far, and it's well worth the money.